All right, so I'm gonna show you the number one stretch to improve your hip mobility, okay? And it's the internal hip rotation. So we know this normally as this movement where the knee drops in toward the middle, and you'll recognize this because we do this in climbing all the time. So drop knees, even just toeing in and pushing that hip into the wall. And the more range you're gonna have, the better your movement. So we're gonna get into this position. It's called the 1990. This position is popularized by FRC, which is another like stretching flexibility protocol. You can work external rotation, which is actually gonna be this front leg, as well as internal rotation by being in this position. But we're gonna focus just on internal rotation. So that's gonna be this back leg. So the goal is to get, so right now I am stretching my right leg. The left shoulder should turn toward the right ankle. So that's kind of the rotation we want to get. And we want to make sure like all of the stretch is going to be right in this hip. The movement of the hip really matters. This is the number one mistake people make, is that they push the hip up and forward. You want to do the opposite. You want to try to drop this hip down toward the ground, and the goal is to get it to sit on the ground. So when you're feeling this stretch, it should be somewhere in this area, okay, because it's going to be so deep in that hip capsule. Basically, you're taking the hip and you're rotating it, so it's almost like putting your hand in a piece of towel and then just screwing it. So like imagine all of that happening in your hip. And so when you release that, you're going to get a lot of release and tension. So make sure that you're rotating the hip back, and to get more range, you can lean back and try to turn the shoulder toward that ankle. So most people, when they first start doing this, they tend to feel a pain right kind of like in the medial part of the knee, so like the meniscus area. And that's pretty I wouldn't say normal, but it does happen if you have some instability in your knee and some lack of flexibility in the adductors. So what you want to do is elevate your seated position, keep the feet on the ground, elevate yourself, and then drop the knee until, you know, basically you want to ride the edge of that pain. So no pain, just discomfort through here, not in the knee. Okay, so that should take care of the knee pain, and if not, you're welcome to message me and we can troubleshoot. So that's that. The other problem that some people have is kind of like a block right in the front of the hip, and it's almost like a stop or maybe like a bone on bone feeling, and I think that's exactly what's happening. It's just like the femur coming up and hitting the bone. So you want to stay out of that feeling. It should be more of like a stretch through this area. So sitting back, and you're going to hold 60 seconds, 90 seconds, 2 minutes. You can split it up as well. And you don't have to be fully relaxed. If you want to squeeze the glute just a little bit, like 10-20%, to get a little bit more activation through here, you're welcome to do that. But you're also gonna get benefit from just relaxing here. So yeah, you can do this every day. You're gonna be totally fine if you do this every day. You will run into a problem if you overstretch. So that's that if you contract more than 10% and you're consistently pushing hard into like the 80 or 90%, and you're doing that daily, that is not going to be very good for the joint or the joint health. You're just like pushing the tissue too much, as well as the feeling of the stretch. So the stretch, that feeling should be maybe a 3 or 4 out of 10. We don't want to go into the extremes. As you get used to stretching, the ability to push past 3 to 4, like you're going to feel safer. You're going to know your body better. So be more on the safer side, more relaxed, less tension in the beginning when you're first starting to do some of these static stretches. So give this a go. I guarantee this is going to help your forward and backward bending. So in the hip, because it is a ball and socket joint, if you work on internal and external rotation, it is going to help your forward and backward, so like flexion and extension through the hip. That is not the case for the shoulders. The shoulders are kind of a different model. You know, we have multiple joints here. Here we basically only have one joint. So yeah, give that a go. And if you're really psyched on this, and after doing the static stretching for a little while, you can do more of an active stretch. And I would recommend that you look up Emmett Lewis. He has it's called a quick and dirty internal rotation. And he goes through all of that, and he is definitely a practitioner of flexibility, and a lot of like what I've learned is from him. So don't do that until you have done some static stretching and you're able to finally get some movement in that hip coming down. Okay, if you don't have much movement, don't even think about watching that video. Just work on this, okay? And then later you can start to add more active and high tension movements to this. All right, so that is the forgotten range, internal rotation. Get after it. It's gonna help your hip mobility, I promise. All right, we'll see you soon.